I was at collegiate level. While I was in school, I was able to take the opportunity to coach a Smash Brothers team, which was a ton of fun to do. Like just to not only like coach a team, but like play with my friends and like strategize with my friends. It was fun to have that. So I think that was just like a really cool part of the esports element that like not a lot of people know about.
Yeah. And I mean, there's a lot involved in getting into the esports just in general. It's not just, hey, I'm good at a video game, I'm just going to go in and play a video game and do that. I mean, there's a lot more kind of going into that. So kind of just like jumping into this whole thing, like, you know, we're here to kind of learn what it takes to be in competitive esports, right?
I mean, the first thing, I mean, you got to like gaming. You got to like, you have to have a spirit of competition too. You got to want to compete. So that's kind of like the two things I would say. Like, very first thing is the spirit of competition. You want to compete, you want to play, and then, you know, just enjoy it.
Right. I mean, so enjoying gaming in general and being competitive. For me, you can't be somebody who's just passive and just like, well, I guess I'm good at a video game. Who's good at, like, you need to be somebody who has props. Is what I'm.
Yes, like you want to play the game. Obviously, you know, you want to continue to play it, and I always tell people you want to play to enjoy it, and whatever that looks like at any level. You know, that if you play to enjoy it and you sit at home and play story mode in hero mode where you put it on really easy and just play through the whole story, great, I'm happy with that. But if you want to sit down, play against somebody and play some mental chess, like, that's where you got to be, and you got to train, you got to, you know, work your progress.
Right. So kind of going into how to get into in this thing, you know, how do you go about choosing a game that you want to kind of get into?
It comes from a desire to play the game at a higher level. For example, for me, I grew up playing Smash Brothers. That was a game that I played all the time throughout my life, and I just happened to find the community. I went out of my way to find it, especially in college. It was a good way for me not only to network people, but people who had a lot of the same interests that I did. And as I continued to do that, it gave me an opportunity to like learn and grow and develop with those people. And so the first thing about like finding your game is you need to find a game that you genuinely want to keep playing, because you're going to be playing it for a while. Like you're not just picking it up, playing it, put it down, leave for a month, come back, pick it up, play it again. You're going to be playing that game. If you're trying to get to the highest level, you're going to be playing that game constantly. You're going to have to learn the ins and outs of the game. You're going to have to know almost everything about that game so you can compete at its highest level.
Right. So it's not for casuals, basically. Like, you're not going to go and casually play a game and then go play competitively.
If you're wanting to be at the highest level,
right,
it's hard to be casual in that.
Right.
It's hard. It's not impossible.
Right.
There are people who are out there that just have a crazy natural talent with the game and can get by and get into top 8 and can get into top 2, but it's very rare for that to happen. But you have to have the drive to want to get back.
Right. Hey, you know you're going along the right path when all of your friends are angry because your up smash beats them every time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. You're there. You're there. You've already figured out.
Exactly. That's how you know it's like, okay, you know what? I'm good enough at this that there's not a single person who's not angry at me.
Yeah.
You know, I get it's I'm beating people with Ken with like a sliver of life.
Yep.
That kind of guy. I don't know if you know that video.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. That's a crazy video. Daigo and oh my god.
I still don't understand how he pulled that off.
I don't either. That's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
A lot of pressure to do that. But like, that's part of the game. Is like you got to play under pressure. You got to be able to play in front of people. Like people are going to be watching you and watching your gameplay and understanding that like you are going to be watched. So.
How do you, and I got to ask this just because it's something that comes up in my head. How do you manage ego at that point? When you get to a point where you're at a higher level, how do you manage your ego not getting ahead of?
You don't want to put yourself in a position where you're setting yourself up for failure. Meaning like, if I go to a tournament and say, I'm going to win this tournament and I don't win it, well, the game's going to suck because I didn't win the tournament. Right. Versus if I go into the tournament saying, hey, I have this thing where I dash back a lot and people are catching on to it. This goal for me in the tournament is to not dash back as much. You know, okay. That's my goal. It's feasible. It's something that I'm working to improve. So the way that you kind of approach a tournament in the sense of that is like, first finding your local tournament, whether it's local or online, finding that tournament and playing, because you need to be able to put yourself on the scale. Because every competitive game has a scale of whether it's a ranking system, whether it's, anything along the lines of that kind of thing. But you can kind of understand where you are as a competitor and where you need to improve. And then from that point is where you start building and doing it.
Right. I mean, there's always got to be a level of, there's always places to improve. You kind of have to always have that mindset, right? There's always a way for me to improve in what I'm doing so that I can be better and be at a higher level and, be that top 5 person, like things like that, right?
Oh yeah, you can get humbled pretty quick. Yeah. I mean, I've had people come to the tournaments that we used to run and dudes are like, yeah, I beat all my friends. I think I'm really good at this game. And like, I think I could win this tournament. And they go 0-2. They lose right away. It happens all the time. And for me, like, that's going to happen. It's like, I call it the tails between the legs, They realize, their ego's up and they're like, oh yeah, I beat all my friends. I use this character. But they have such predictable things that happen. They have a lot of tells that are very easy to read. And if you're playing against somebody who's even at a moderate level, it's tough to get out of those habits,
And that kind of goes into studying the community and knowing at what level people are at within the community of the game that you've chosen. So if you decide I'm going to be a Street Fighter player, I'm going to be Super Smash, I'm going to be for Tetris, right? Is knowing who the top people in that field are, and their advantages, the disadvantages, and then kind of just studying the field, knowing the level, and then again finding ways to improve yourself in order to be able to compete at that high level. It's like training, like in any other sport.
Yeah, as with any other sport, I mean, you have great basketball players, football players, but I think something unique to specifically for fighting games is that you can kind of tailor your own style with a character. And especially like in the Smash Brothers Melee community, it's really cool that you can basically black out a character and like black out the person's name, and you could watch a match, and the high level players can tell you who that character is, like who's playing them based on the movement, based on like what they choose. They could choose 2 of the same characters, but you can see, oh, okay, he's doing more defensive approaches. He's a lot more aggressive, so I know it's this player. Yeah. Even though it's the same character, they're utilizing the tools in their own way. And I think that's where like this creativeness comes from, specifically fighting games, is like you can take a character, take their tools, and use them to your aspect, because there's always going to be the highest level. Oh yeah, this is the tier list, and this is, the best character to use because they have the best possible options. But in Smash Brothers Melee in particular, like Luigi was considered a mid-tier character. Now he's considered high tier because 2 people have just been dominating tournaments and beating the number 1 and number 2 players dominantly, because there's just not enough matchup information and they just don't know the character well enough. So you can be successful with any level of character that you decide to do. You have to put in the work to do it. Some characters are going to be a lot easier. Some characters are going to be crazy hard because there's A, not a lot of information, or B, they just don't have as many tools to utilize. But it is possible.
Would you suggest at all doing any kind of gauging? So like maybe you enter a low level tournament, something that's like low stakes, so that you can kind of see where am I in comparison to everybody else in the field. I might think that I'm the best at this game, but I don't really know until I play people who are at a higher level than I am. Would you suggest kind of putting yourself in that kind of position? Like with I'm a former boxer, so like with boxing, a lot of times you would box or you'd spar with people to kind of figure out, okay, where are my holes at so I can improve on myself in a setting where I'm actually doing an amateur boxing match versus getting my butt kicked in my first fight because I did not know where I actually was.
Yeah, and that's kind of the same concept with more fighting game stuff. It's the same idea. I mean, the first thing I say is play a character you like to play.
Yeah.
That you want to like kind of the sense of like your character should fit your hand. The hand movements that you do with your character should feel smooth. They should feel natural. They should never feel unnatural to do a certain movement.
Well, I can't play as Zangief.
Right, yeah. There's button and motion inputs. I mean, I'm Smash Brothers. All I have to do is hit one direction and I'm fine, but it's cool to like see people take certain characters and like push them to new heights because they want to do that training. They have the desire to be better. But to answer that question, yeah, I mean, the more you play in the tournaments, whatever level it is, the better. And ideally, in your training arena, you want to have 3 types of people to train with. One person who's a little lower than the level you normally play, somebody who's at your level, and somebody who's above your. And with that, with the lower level player, you be able to do more aggressive things, try new things, and be more experimental. Somebody who's evenly matched with you is kind of this mix in between of being aggressive and defensive. Somebody who's way above your pay grade, you want to be more defensive, you want to like do safer options to kind of get yourself out of a scenario with a player who's very, very well versed in me.
Right. I mean, you want to learn your own strategies, especially against people who are that much better than you. Again, if you're humble enough to be able to admit that there's people that are that much better than you, and that's why I said at the beginning, like, you want to be able to check your ego, because you may go in with a high level ego and, like you said, be humble. And it's like, yeah, it's training with people who are that much better, because I mean, it's in comparison to any other sport that's out there. You train with people who are better than you, because then you can get yourself up to that levels, and then you start moving on to, okay, well, now how do I get to the next level and become best, right? Steph Curry, for sports references, still does 1,000 shots a day, so that he could get used to the feeling. And when he came into the NBA, one of the best 3-point shooters in history because of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's the same concept. I mean, now coming from like competitive Tetris perspective, the more games you play, the more you're going to understand what moves you can make, what things you can do, what other pieces fit in certain areas. Because there are times where I'm watching people casually practice and I see them make placements that I'm like, oh wow, like I would have never caught in that,
right.
And it gives me now more to add to my own repertoire. And it's kind of the same thing in a fighting game where like you'll see somebody they'll play the same character but have different approaches and different styles. There are general things that are kind of like the rules of thumb with characters, that you're going to know the basics, the fundamentals. Kind of like how you're saying with boxing, your footwork is kind of a fundamental. Everybody has to have good footwork.
Right.
Kind of the same thing, Smash Brothers Melee. You have to have good movement. You got to be able to move. You can't move, you're not going to win.
Yeah.
So
force strength is the other big thing. It's the one thing that everybody kind of like neglects.
Yeah.
Jumping into it, thinking that like, oh yeah, not realizing that everything in boxing comes from your core.
Yeah.
It's you cannot have without footwork and core. Can't do that. So I mean, like, going into gaming, it's kind of the same thing. It's knowing your movement. It's knowing what your core strengths are, knowing where your weaknesses are, so that you can kind of like block on that kind of stuff.
It's also creating your style, because you don't want to just copy and paste.
Yeah.
Because like a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, like I saw this guy win a tournament with the best character. Okay, I'm just going to copy what he's doing because he won. No, he won because he built his own strategy.
Right.
And that's with not just video games, but in TCGs, it's kind of the same thing. People will build the TCG deck, and then they just copy it, and sometimes it works for people, but other times it's kind of a luck of the draw. Like sometimes you don't draw the right cards or something along the line to that,
Especially like it's not geared towards your playstyle. So like if you're, it's like, oh, he won with this. Well, that person won with that depth because it's their playstyle, and you can't copy someone's playstyle if you're not playing at that same style.
Yeah.
You're setting yourself up for failure if you're thinking that I'm going to take somebody else's meta, their setup, and think that you're going to be able to achieve the same level with that.
Yeah, I'll give you a good example. One guy that I followed in Smash Brothers, I still follow him to this day, but Hungrybox, he's one of the best Jigglypuff players in the world, and I play Jigglypuff in Smash Melee.
Jigglypuff surprises the hell out of me, dude, because I tried to play with Jigglypuff, couldn't do it. Yeah, and then when I see other people play with Jigglypuff, it surprises the hell out of me.
Yeah. And I think the cool thing about playing a character like that, because it's very different per game, but coming from like Smash Bros. Melee and Ultimate, there's general strategies that you do, but watching Hungrybox take this character and make it the best character in the world. I mean, he won Evo in 2016 with this character that everybody was like, they could win because there's this cheat mechanic, but he didn't use it all the time. He did use it, but it wasn't every kill was using, it's called rest.
Yeah.
But he's just an incredible player, and like people try to replicate his style, but you can't really replicate what he does because he's so unique in his craft.
Yeah.
He understands the game at such a deep level that he's very creative with how he does things, and he's willing to take more risks on things. He's willing to do that stuff because he's been playing the game for so long and stuck to the character. Because a lot of people will get frustrated and say, this character's not working for me, this character's not working for me, and they just immediately change characters. When it's not the character, it's the matchup. You're struggling against an individual, you're not struggling against the character. You know? So, and working through those things, and there are some matchups that are just bad. And if it's that bad and you have to have a pocket character, that's a whole nother deeper level that you go into. But most people will try to stick out the character and find a way to win and find a weak point. Because at that point, you're just kind of deciphering the other people's tendencies and and stuff like that.
Right. It's like when you're trying to play when you're trying to play PvE, and you're like, oh yeah, no, I put this at the highest AI level, but it's like when you're playing PvP, you're playing somebody who's actually playing the character.
You're playing a thinking person.
Right. It's outthinking anything the AI is ever going to think about. Yeah. I've seen people do weird things with characters that the computer would have never thought to do.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny you say that actually, because I have two stories with that. Daigo for Street Fighter 6 actually lost to the AI badly, like got perfect twice. And it's funny you say that because, like, yeah, the AIs have now evolved to a point where they can actually, like, do things in a perfect manner. But, like, Daigo's sitting there, like, he's getting these perfects every time, you know, because he said it to the hardest. And he's just like, I want to see if I can win. So, and it's funny because they actually had to nerf the AIs a little bit. They're like, if the best player in the world can't win against the AI, we may need to dial it back a little.
I got wrecked by jewelry one time trying to do that. And I'm like, no, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, I have those moments too, for sure. But another story is Mewtwo King. He's one of the 5 gods of Smash Bros. Melee. He's like one of the best Melee players of all time. He grew up, in a household by himself as a kid, and he would only play level 9 CPUs. But it was like 2006, I want to say, 2007. He was basically like hand counting frames. He would pause and unpause the game and count the frames to like find out where the hitboxes came out, where invincibility was, and he had a spreadsheet he wrote by hand of every single character in Smash Bros. Melee and memorized everything.
That's intense.
Yeah, and like that's why he became so good.
Yeah, like, and that is the fundamental behind knowing your game and study.
He's the deepest level, but he like, it's funny because he went on to other YouTube channels where it's like, oh, okay, like they played like a Smash Brothers Melee like guessing game, and he was able to guess everything correct. Like he got 100% on every, like what move does this percentage, and when does this come out, and like how far on the stage do they go if they get hit at this percent. And so it was just crazy. That's crazy. Like that's a deeper level of knowledge that you just have to work for. Because you can learn basic stuff about a character, but when you're that deep into a character where okay, I know that this move comes out at this frame and this move comes out at this frame, let's do the same move at the same time, I know I'm going to win. Yeah. It's just like a deeper level that it's hard to compete with.
That's absolutely insane.
Yeah.
And I mean, it kind of goes into kind of the next point on this, with understanding the community, right? So it's kind of like, again, we're talking about people within each of these gaming communities, people who study hard, but it's also knowing who these people are and knowing people within the community itself. Being a part of the community is a big deal. I mean, you don't want to be the person who thinks they're going to jump right into a competitive game but not know anybody else in that community and not know the dynamics between the people in that community itself.
Yeah, and when getting into a community, like Discord is usually the best way to do it because a lot of games now have an online setting that you can play in. I mean, even for classic Tetris, you can play on your NES and they have a way to like basically have you play an online match where like they basically stream the two of you playing against each other on a different stream. So it looks like you're playing in the same area, but it's, you're sitting in your house playing Tetris, but like you're still competing.
Yeah.
And
It's a good way to meet like people to practice with too.
yeah, and so like theory craft and do all this stuff, and like especially in the online era, that's how people learn new things about their characters and find new ways to combo and like do all these things that just wouldn't have happened at like 10, 15 years ago.
Right. Right. No, it's crazy because like the way we're connected now kind of lends itself for people who do want to get seriously into competitive esports. It's like it's all there. It's just knowing your resources.
Yeah, and there are thousands of resources, not just like Discord channels, but YouTube videos of matches to watch and streams of like tournaments that play in, because like you don't necessarily need to play if you want to just watch the tournament and just kind of gauge, the competition in that manner.
Right.
But however you want to approach it, for some people like to dive into the deep end, some people like to walk down the stairs into the pool. Like it's just a matter of what works best for you. And then going from there.
Yeah, especially like knowing, okay, I'm going to get into this community.
Yeah.
Here are the top players on here, and it's like studying what they're doing and being able to know ahead of time, he has a tendency to do this. He has a tendency to do that. But then also, so looking at the points down here, also studying your own work and seeing what your flaws are and seeing where you can make improvements.
One of the guys that I coached, he said the hardest thing for him to do was to watch himself play because he knew what mistakes he was making. But watching it happen was like the hardest thing to do.
Cringe, man.
Yeah, because you know what you're doing is wrong, but you're reacting in a moment. And so you would see the frustration on his face when he would watch. He's like, I can't believe I did that. And I'm like, well, this is your proof that you're doing. This is the proof of you like having this tendency. And we've talked about it, and you need to get yourself out of that habit as best as you can.
Yeah.
And so I think one of the coolest things when it comes to like watching their play, it is super easy to do now. There are thousands of ways to watch yourself play, whether you stream yourself playing, whether you just use the online recording system that's in the the game itself. You can watch replays on almost anything now, which is amazing for the coaching aspect.
Yeah. I mean, like again, comparing it to because this really is like any other sport. It really is. Comparing it to boxing, again, when I would train and everything like that, I would look at what were my sticking points, what were my issues, right? If I throw a hook, I have a tendency to wait too long to bring it back, so I got to work on snapping back. Otherwise, I'm going to get hit in the face. Things like that. It's exactly what you said right there. It's knowing, damn, I hate watching myself because here is a mistake that I make, but in not watching that, you don't know how to correct that mistake.
So you'll improve to a certain point, right, but until you start understanding yourself,
right,
and like the tendencies that you have, and if you start picking up on it, which is why I tell people watching with someone else, because if you're watching it with someone else, they're going to catch on things that you don't, because you're only going to see, well, yeah, I did it for this reason,
right,
but your other person that's watching it may say, oh no, this is going to happen if you decide to do this, So it's good to have that, and like also like going back to community is like talking to them and saying, hey, I'm struggling in a matchup between this character. What approaches are there? What kind of styles do you guys do to kind of help combat this character in particular? So there's a lot of different theory crafting and a lot of different things that you can do, especially now. So
yeah. Well, so kind of because we're approaching the end of this, we're coming up on time, but I did want to ask about setting goals, like goal setting and things like that. So what would be your best advice as far as setting realistic goals and how to get to those places in order to realistically get you to a place where you can improve yourself?
Make it simple and make it attainable, and know the level you're playing, because you can't just go in and I'm going to win a 2,000 person tournament.
Yeah.
It's not realistic. It could be, but you're probably not going to do it. There are a handful of people that I can count that have actually done that.
Yeah.
But setting a goal for yourself in the sense of improvement in a tournament versus trying to be at the high west, you know? So for me, like my goal for one tournament was, hey, I'm going to make it out of fools. I'm going to get into the tournament. There's a lot of fighting games, a lot of games like that have a pool system where you play, then the pool system puts you into a seeding. And if you don't do well in pools, then you don't make the tournament.
Right.
And so, like, setting a goal for yourself, hey, I'm going to make it out of pools and I'm going to win my first game. You know, not match, because most games and fighting games are 2 out of 3. I'm going to win one game. You know, if I win one game and I make it out of pools, I have reached all my goals. Now everything else is a bonus. You know, if I make it 2 games further and I get to my next opponent, I've already accomplished more than I've needed to. And I had a couple of people on my team who definitely struggled with setting those kind of goals and being like, theyese are kind of easy goals. And they're like, well, yeah, because we want you to feel that sense of there is something that you're attaining.
Right.
And then as you do that, it's going to give you the desire to build off of it more and want to continue to build even further to say, hey, you know what? I'm going for top 64 today. I'm going for top 16.
Right.
You know?
And whether easy or hard, you have to set a goal somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like if you set an easy goal, okay, cool, you knock that out of the park. So set a goal that's higher than that until you get to a point where it is getting a little bit harder.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, now here are goals that are harder for me to attain, but I can work towards that.
Yeah.
You know?
And if it doesn't happen and you don't reach that goal, don't take it as a loss. Take it as an opportunity to grow. I mean, that's what Daigo says. He's like, every time I lose a match, I'm not worried about it. He's like, that's just an opportunity for me to learn my tendencies and learn what I need to improve on. He's like, it's an everlasting improvement that I get to do because there are people out there that are eventually going to be better than me.
Right.
And if I'm not on top of it, because he's starting to get into that like older phase, he's kind of an older face of the community. And, you know, people catch up and people come up with creative new ideas. And if he's not on top of that and he gets stuck in his tendencies, people can take games from him.
Right.
Even though he is one of the best in the world. But, and that's something, you know, as you continue to play in more and more tournaments, your goals are going to get larger, larger, and larger. But starting out at the base level and just setting a goal of even being in a tournament, like going to it, you don't even have to compete. If you go to it and just get yourself involved and talk to people and just kind of see the game for what it is at the tournament level, that can even just be an aspect of, okay, you know what? Yeah, I do want to compete. Or, hey, you know what? This may be too much for me. I'm just going to keep playing casually and in the way that I want to, which is totally fair.
Right. So last 2 things I'm going to ask you here. What's probably the number one thing that you think that people get wrong about pro gaming?
That you have to be the best. That you have to. Anybody can, the best part about esports to me, there's no standard. There's no direct standard. You don't have to be this height, this weight, you know, this speed. You know, you don't have to have this vertical. It's not like traditional sport. It's unique in the sense of a 10-year-old competitive Tetris player can come in and wipe the floor of people, or a guy who's 94 can compete in the Tetris world. You know,
Beating people with his feet.
Yeah, you know, like all these kind of things. There's just this open gate to people that, like, if they work hard and do it, it doesn't matter who you are as an individual. So long as you're putting in the work and you're putting in the time, you can compete at the level that you can compete at.
Awesome, man. What's the biggest piece of advice you would give somebody, like anybody that's here right now, that is wanting to get into competitive esports? We just kind of went over a lot of that right now, but what would be like your biggest piece of quick advice that you would give anybody here?
Play in a tournament. Like, play. Like, you gotta know where you are on the scale to get better. Because you could always just say, oh yeah, I beat all my friends. I think I'm the best at this game. Well, you're not going to know that until you go to a tournament playing against people who like the game as much as you do and have studied the game maybe a little more than you have. And you kind of get put in your place and understand where you are on that scale so you can find a way to improve from that point. And I like that for people, because people are like, oh man, I'm going to lose the tournament. Well, yeah, you have to know where you are. Like, you can't just go in and you're going to get number 1. Like, you have to go in understanding, you know what, I might not even win a game, but I'm going to see where I'm at, and then that's going to give me the drive to push myself further.
Awesome, man. Well, Tyler, I thank you for having this conversation with me, man.
Dude, it's always good to hang out, man.
Absolutely, man. We'll be here at the rest of the con for the rest of the day and hanging out here at CCS.
Absolutely.
All right.